Good morning, everyone. It is said that the greatest prayer of all is just by saying thank you. So come with me, join me in saying thank you for this day. Thank you. I want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 'Cause I'm so grateful. So grateful. Oh, grateful. I'm so grateful. I want to say thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Say thank you.
'Cause I'm so grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
Oh, so grateful.
So grateful.
I'm so grateful.
Grateful.
Thank you.
Say thank you.
I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
'Cause I'm so grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So grateful.
Grateful.
Oh,
Grateful.
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 So grateful.
Grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And good morning. And as always, I welcome you to our weekly spiritual celebration here. My name is Reverend Richard Pacheco, and we are so grateful for you to join us for the next 45 minutes to an hour of joining your time, whether it's live or watching us later. And we continue our series on the hero's journey. And we also call it, how unity kind of blends into our lives things, but we're using the movies, The Karate Kid. And we know that with Cobra Kai season 5 coming out at the beginning of September, it became popular, remind us about the Karate Kid. And I think I explained this before when we did Karate Kid 1 is that, one of the things my daughter and I do is we watch it, one run, we watch the entire thing. And, during the movie, because I was such a fan of the original movies, I can pick out the different scenes that go with each of the Karate Kids and what is being said. to the point that at times I'm actually quoting it before it's even said in Cobra Kai because I know where they're going with it. And it's something that's in all our lives. We all have that hero's journey. We all have the challenges that come in that journey. And if you want to know more about the hero's journey, look up Joseph Campbell. And there's a lot of videos that talk about the hero's journey. And there's even a movie out there, My Name is Joe, which is a great movie about his principles and his works on the hero's journey. With that being said, I'm so grateful again for you being here today. And I hope you took time to share this out. And if you haven't done so, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, as well as hit that bell. As you know, things are continually evolving. There's a lot of things going on right now that have kept me to just a Sunday celebration right now. But we are beginning to grow and do things, and a lot of things going on. So definitely want to go ahead and move us into prayer. So let's go ahead and close our eyes and take a deep breath into this moment, knowing that we are in a place of joyous presence. We know that we are divinely called to this time and this place, and being here, watching this service online, knowing that even through technology, we are still one with each other. We are one with Source. And that's what's important, is knowing our oneness, knowing that we are worthy to be together in this energetic field. We come focused with an open mind and an open heart, ready to learn something today, take something and make sure that we share that with someone, because we become that light. And as we know, the world is like a harmony. And our daily word today is exactly that. It is harmony. And our affirmation from our daily word today is harmony is a song of my life. And our affirmative prayer comes, harmony is an integral part of music, adding layers of intricacy and depth. Without harmony and rhythm, a musical composition would be little more than a dissonant cacophony. With the resolution of each chord, the synchronization of every note, a symphony can touch my soul with peace. Similarly, my soul finds peace as I seek a chord in my relationships and every interaction I have. From a place of love and tranquility, I bring compassion to every situation. With the give and take of compromise, I build understanding and trust. I approach every interaction with faith and the expectation of harmonious results. Harmonizing my mind and heart with the world around me, I welcome and do my part to create goodwill, meaning, and beauty. And from Romans 12:16, we have our scripture which says, live in harmony with one another. And as we continue this prayer for ourselves, we are so grateful for the things going on. We know that today, for those in our nearby family, there's a major vote going on. And we know that God's divine order is in place. And it will unfold as it should be. We know that divine guidance is in place, as we know where to move forward in not only in my own life, but in the life of all around that I can affect in some way. And all that are listening to this can affect around yourselves. As I may hold an official title of ministers, but each one of you is ordained a minister when you choose to minister to someone in some way. And we do the work that is for us to do, because we all have individualized gifts that are blessed upon us as an expression of the Source. And we know the work is done because we say it is, and so it is, and so we let it be. And we affirm this with a Somo Devi, Ashe, and Amen.
There's been a storm brewing inside of me, clouds moving around my heart. Something's changing that I can't see. I'm stuck in what I know is safe, but not yet where I'm supposed to feel the call of something more. I feel the call of something I've never felt before. I feel the call of something more. I feel the call, it's asking, what am I here for? 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 They say that pain pushes till the vision pulls. It feels like my safety nets have fallen down. I wish I had a map of where to go. I've got this feeling deep inside that nowhere where I know I feel the call of something more. I feel the call of something I've never done before. I feel the call of something more. I feel the call and it's asking, what am I here for? 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 I wanna make a move right now, though I don't know when or how. When I trust and know the truth, my heart will point the way. There is more of me to share, so today I do declare I will take that step in faith and let my light shine. I feel the call of something more. Feel the call of something I've never felt before. I feel the call of something more. I feel the call to be someone I've never been before. I feel the call of something more. I feel the call of something. What am I here for? 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 Oh yeah. What am I here for? Just love. Just love. Just love.
Let's go ahead and take a time in meditation now where we can just relax and truly engage in our lesson today. So if you feel so moved, go ahead and close your eyes. If you're not comfortable, you can actually close them and create a soft gaze downward. and just begin to breathe. Let's take this beginning of meditation just to scan our bodies, just look for any discomforts, and begin at the forehead and top of the head. And if you feel any tension, just let it go. Relax, down to the cheeks. Let your shoulders just kind of sunk down a bit. And as we continue to move down, let's go ahead and let our arms just hang and maybe move them just a little bit to allow for us to relax. And let's just let that relaxation begin to move down through our torso, down to our legs and thighs, our shins and calves, finally to our feet. Just wiggle your toes a little bit so you know you're relaxed. Let us begin to just use this time to breathe in, just realizing that we are in the presence, this holy presence, this presence that lets us know that we are whole. And we move our attention from the outer world into our Christ consciousness, that seat of the soul, knowing that everything we need is already inside of us. And by releasing the world outside, we no longer need its perception of who we are to be. And we look at our own perception through Christ's eyes, through God's eyes, knowing that we are an expression of this source and we are perfect as it is. We begin to realize that we are worth everything that we desire. In prayer, in our imagination, that power of imagination allows us to see who we truly can be. And we do not let the limitations that we have set for ourselves or set because of our influence by that which is outside of us dictate anything more than we are perfect as we are. And that these limitations are just temporary, for we know we have the power to change ourselves, to find the true self and work to bring that forward, to brighten that light. And as we take some time, let's go ahead and breathe into our space here and allow some time in the silence to just visualize and listen for that small, still voice to guide us to that perfection of worthiness that we already are. And as we come back into this place, we are grateful for knowing that the idea has already been fed to us through divine mind into our Christ consciousness. And all that is left is to express it into the world. So we could say it's already done in heaven where we want it done on earth. Bring it into fruition that we can see it for ourselves outside of us, as well as deep within our thoughts. But we know it's already done, so we are so grateful. We say thank you, thank you, thank you. Take a deep breath in and release, knowing that all doubts just wash away as we begin to see that expression manifest. And we affirm this work is already being done because we say it is, and so it is, and so we let it be. And we affirm it with Somo Te Be, Ashe, and Amen.
When I woke up this morning and I looked in the mirror, a voice came in my head pointing out each fear. She said, "You're fat, you're stupid, you're ugly. How did you get that way?" In that moment I had enough and I said, "No way, 'cause I'm good enough, good enough. Nothing here is missing. I gave myself permission to be good enough, good enough. I got the right stuff, good enough." All those wavy models in the magazines that I see every day, it looks a little tiny little breeze could just blow them away. But I'm a woman of substance, standing in my power. Right here, right now, I do declare that it's my finest hour. And I'm good enough, good enough. No longer wishing, I give myself permission to be good enough, good enough. I got the right stuff, good enough. Well, I'm no Cindy Crawford and I'm no Tyra Banks, but I got a body that's healthy, and for that I give thanks. I don't have to be perfect, who I am is okay. I say it loud, I feel so proud, I stand up and say, oh, I'm good enough, good enough. I'm on a mission to give myself permission to be good enough, good enough. I got the right stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm good enough, good enough. I'm on a mission to give everyone permission to be good enough, good enough. We got the right stuff. We're good enough, good enough.
Stand up and say, I'm
Good enough,
now.
good enough.
Stand up and say,
Stand up and say, good enough,
stand up and say, I'm
good enough,
good enough now.
good enough, good enough.
And say,
I'm good enough.
stand up and say, I'm good enough.
Well, I'm so grateful for you to be here today, and I hope you're enjoying the series. I know we've only done one of the movies, which is The Karate Kid. And I hope you got something out of last week's lesson. Again, I want to apologize for the technology issue last week. You know, you think you're having a good time talking about a talk, and everybody else in the world is seeing a black screen. And, well, we fixed it. It is up. So if you haven't seen that talk, go ahead and go back so you can understand the transition to today. So today we're going to enter into the world of Karate Kid Part 2. And this is going to take on a little bit different because we see, you know, as someone who's taken martial arts at the time of this movie, I think I was 16 when it was out. I was in the height of my Shotokan karate training. I think this was a time where I started fighting tournaments, excuse me, and really participating in that tournament world that you saw in Karate Kid 1. A little bit different. As with black belts and above, you can see in their tournaments, they didn't really wear equipment. Whereas in the real world, we do, unless you go to a specialized tournament. So again, enough of that. But if you haven't seen The Karate Kid 2, as always, please be prepared for spoilers. But what I do love about this movie is that if you listen carefully, the entire theme of this movie will be given to you within the first 30 minutes of the movie. And in fact, less than that. Probably the first 15 minutes of the movie. There's a quote from Mr. Miyagi that brings up the entire theme for the movie. So let's begin at the beginning. So we know that even if you just watch the trailer, Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san are heading to Okinawa because Mr. Miyagi just got news of his father's failing health. But just before that, we actually watch a montage of everything that happened in Karate Kid 1 up until the end of the tournament. Once the montage is over, you see Daniel-san in the shower, and he's like, well, we got to talk about my career. And, Mr. Miyagi looks at him and he's like, what career? He's like, oh, we got to prepare for my career. He goes, I've already done that. And Daniel-san says, what? He goes, early retirement. So he wants to remind Daniel that karate, as he's being taught, was not meant for competition and trophies, but a way of life as Mr. Miyagi grew up in Okinawa. And if you think about it, sometimes, we see a lot of spirituality being commercialized to make money. Now, don't get me wrong. I get this lecture all the time. There's no reason someone cannot make a living from doing the right thing. But sometimes we also want to remind people that even in the midst of a business, that we have to do the work. And I remind myself of that all the time because it is easy to talk about it. It is easy to help people with it. But when we forget to do it, we kind of slip off that field. So we move on in the movie. Mr. Miyagi and Danny are leaving the arena, I should say. And Danny's signing autographs and getting congratulations. And John Kreese walks out, purposely walks in between them, giving Danny and Mr. Miyagi a look, and then walks off. Never says anything, just as if his presence alone is going to intimidate you. Ever had those thoughts? Where you think everything's great and everybody's celebrating you, and this big thought just walks through and try to let you know that this thought, usually negative, is bigger than you are. I want you to think about that. So the movie continues where you hear John Kreese in the background. He's yelling at Johnny now because second place is nothing, breaks the trophy, throws it on the ground. They get into a scuffle. He finally puts Johnny in a chokehold. Not even a headlock, but a chokehold. Mr. Miyagi walks over, grabs Kreese, pulls him off the student, and John Kreese then brings his hands up to begin a fight. Throws a punch, Mr. Miyagi sidesteps, breaks the glass. Mr. Miyagi's on the other side now. He tries to throw the punch with the other hand. Same thing, ends up breaking glass in a car. At this point, Mr. Miyagi grabs him, takes him down to his knees, prepares to throw a strike that we know could be deadly. John Kreese has this intimidated look in his face like, oh my God, I'm about to die. And the tension in the movie just begins to grow. And just as it grows, Mr. Miyagi pulls up, does a spirit yell, normally known as Kiya in most traditional Japanese karate, throws a chop that's about to hit him, stops short, grabs his nose and goes honk, embarrassing John Kreese, but showing John Kreese mercy. And then kind of makes fun of him. Walks away with Daniel. And Daniel asks the pivotal question. Could you have killed him? Mr. Miyagi looks at him and he goes, yes. He goes, why didn't you? I want you to pay attention to this quote, because not only is this going to be the focus of my talk today, but it's the entire focus of the movie, and I will show you how. And the exact quote is, persons with no forgiveness in heart lives a worse life, or living. Okay, let me rephrase that because the way he says it, he says, "Person with forgiveness in heart, with no forgiveness in heart, is living a worse punishment than death." Now, if you've been around the Unity Circle long enough, you know that we use forgiveness so much. And we tell you the practice of forgiveness. You know, and the reason being is not always what we think. A lot of people, my wife had posted something today or yesterday on Facebook, and it said something to the effect of that I tend to forgive people when they don't deserve it. And that's an easy thing to say, and it's a meme that goes around. And from a human perspective, and we are in this world from a human experience, a lot of times it is true. But we must find forgiveness in our own hearts, because I always say perception is personal. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So when we listen to that quote and we talk about the movies, we realize that as we go through the movie, that quote actually dictates what's going to happen as well as what's happening in the movie based on the relationships. So the first relationship we have is Mr. Miyagi and Sato. So if you've watched the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, basically the history is that back in those days, they had arranged marriages. And there was an arrangement that was made that was supposedly very good for both families between Sato and a young lady called Yuke. And so this would be a prearranged marriage. But Mr. Miyagi, a young Mr. Miyagi and young Yuki were actually in love with each other. Well, Mr. Miyagi declared his love for her, which then ended up in a challenge from Sato. And in those times, the challenge was a fight to the death. Well, Mr. Miyagi thought the best thing to do was to leave the island. Avoid the fight, which was the premise of karate, only for self-defense only, and to allow them to marry as was originally done. So as we know in the movie, when he comes back to Japan or goes back to Okinawa, Sato is waiting for him because they still have a score to settle and a fight to the death to regain his honor, because he felt that his honor, which is big in the Japanese culture, was taken from him in embarrassment for what had happened. Second relationship we have is Sato's nephew Chozen, which if you watch Cobra Kai, you know that character has actually returned as part of the Cobra Kai cast. But Chozen, being nephew of Sato and being the messenger and all that, takes on Sato's anger and hatred, which had nothing to do with him, and takes it out on Daniel-san, who happens to be Mr. Miyagi's student. Throughout the whole show, we see how Chozen continues to try to embarrass and show a power over Daniel in the name of honor. But as you watch the movie, you'll understand that Chozen has a very twisted idea of honor. And then we have the original conflict, which was John Kreese and Mr. Miyagi at the beginning. And that I will tell you, as next week our talk is on Karate Kid 3, that relationship issue will carry on into Karate Kid 3. And how it's handled will surprise you. But either way. So we have all these people are carrying anger, unforgiveness, and it's now all coming to a climax because now these relationships are coming back together to see where it's gone. So when we talk about forgiveness, we know that even our master teacher taught it best. In Matthew 18, verses 21 to 22, Peter came and said to him, "Lord, if my brother or sister sins against me, how often should I forgive?" And he says, as many as 77 times. And Jesus said to him, not 7 times, but I tell you 77 times. And this is again from the New Revised Standard Version. I know there's 7 times 70 and things like that in other versions. But either way, it's an unlimited forgiveness. Now, we come from a world now where human response to most things is anger. And most reactions is anger. And we have to understand that a lot of times where we come from is our own perspective. And when we hold on to that anger, as the Buddhists say, holding on to that anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. It fills us up, which doesn't allow us to be open for the love and things that we do deserve. Charles Fillmore also says, and Charles Fillmore is, of course, the co-founder of Unity, says, here we must learn to let go, to give up, to make room for the things we have prayed and for desired. So without forgiveness and holding on to this pot of anger inside of us, it's just boiling over. We lose that room, that openness for the good in our lives. And a lot of times the good in that person. A lot of times, we're married or we have friends or just in family relationships. And this took a long time for me to learn. You've always heard me say that perspective is personal. And it kind of comes down to that whole their truth, and the truth, there's always three truths. And the reason being is because a lot of times when we get into these relationships, we come with this baggage and our idea of how the world around us is supposed to work. Or I like to use the word should work. And you know what happens when we should on ourselves. Okay? But when we do that, and I know I'm guilty of the reactions, is when I react to something because I feel it's self-preservation, which has caused problems in a lot of things in my life. And then other people will react for their own self-preservation based on their beliefs. And when we talk about becoming the observer, which means that we are no longer taking my perspective, we're no longer taking the other person's perspective, we're actually rising above it and looking at the situation. Charles Fillmore also shared with us, he says, a mental treatment guaranteed to cure every ill that flesh is heir to, or as our outer self takes in, is to sit for half an hour every night and mentally forgive everyone against whom you have any ill will or antipathy against. And when we get that in our system, we understand that it is in that notion that forgiveness becomes an important part. Even if you're like me, when I first came to Unity, I wanted to learn more about the prosperity part of Unity, the abundance part of Unity. Everything I read, everything I knew came down to forgiveness, allowing the love to come in. So, when we look now at ourselves, we see that the things that stop us can also be that forgiveness. Reverend Eric Butterworth says it best. He says, often the thing that stands in our way is some bit of unforgiveness that we may be hooked on. Jesus always seems to go right to the heart of the matter. He says that if you come to the altar to pray and you remember that you have something against your brother, you should first go and make up with your brother, then come with your gift. So in other words, if you're blocking the flow by your resentment or bitterness, not even God can break through with the good you desire. In the Lord's Prayer, Jesus says, forgive us our debts as we have also forgiven our debtors. This does not imply bargaining with God. God makes no deals. It means that we must give way to receive. We must let go of the indignation and the offense if we want to loosen the restrictions in our lives. Something's got to give. There is a great probability that in the case of physical or mental or financial problems in your life, there is some kind of bitterness or memory of wrong in your consciousness. Something's got to give. Even like I said, sometimes I have to remind myself that I come and do these Sunday talks and I do meditations and I do stuff, I do Reiki, I do all this stuff for others and forget that I have to do for myself. But because I forget to do that forgiveness work, because I forget to do the work that I need to do for me, that's self-care, I also find blockages. And when I say blockages, it's very simply as in maybe I'm not listening correctly. And then when I do listen, I'm like, wait a minute, this person or that person is right. And you know, my wife used to love saying this, is nobody wants to be wrong. But you've got to remember that if you hold on to the need to be right, there is a chance that you're missing out on a chance for you to be the best you can be. So you never want to hold on to that need to be right, to be the best who you are, because you got to let it go. You got to give. You got to let it happen. And yes, it's easy for us to come back and say, hey, well, that person doesn't deserve it. But remember that forgiveness is about you. You know, Mr. Miyagi showed that at the beginning when he could have hurt John Kreese. And he probably would have been somewhat in his legal right because he was defending Johnny. But he chose mercy. In the movie itself, him and Sato going back and forth, and Sato threatens him that if he doesn't fight, he's going to destroy the village. He's going to sell the village. He's going to do all this stuff if Mr. Miyagi doesn't show up for this fight. Because there's an anger in his heart that's stopping him from seeing the beauty and the love that's in that country. And the beauty and the love of the villagers. Chozen and Daniel-san, every time they turn around, Chozen, as I said, had this twisted version of honor. We see Chozen cheating the people of the village by using fake weights so he can pay off less money than he should be. And when Daniel-san drops the basket, causing the weights to fall and break and show that they're fake, Chozen feels, you destroyed my honor, but there was no honor in stealing. Later on, Daniel-san is taken into a bar where he's challenged to break 6 ice, and Mr. Miyagi puts a bet down. And Mr. Miyagi bets that he can break all 6. He breaks them, wins the money, but of course Chozen feels that because it's against his honor, he wants his money back, and we see that later in a scene where they're at a dance. Closer to the beginning, Daniel-san is with, is learning the Boden dance. And when Chozen comes and starts bullying him, and he does something to him, he feels that he dishonored him because it should be his right, because it's his power to bully him. So again, that hatred, which didn't even originally, didn't even originally begin with him. How many times do we do that? That we think that by holding on to an anger to protect someone else, it could be our children, it could be a family member, it could be our spouses, and we allow it to eat away at us, and it has nothing to do with us. And the reason we say forgiveness is for us is because when we look at the actual situation, we're holding on to this anger that's burning inside of us, but that person is going on living. I want you to really think about that. Horace Bushnell says forgiveness is man's deepest need and highest achievement. And that goes around with the same actually written in the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, if you want to see the brave, look to those who can return love for hatred. If you want to see the heroic, look to those who can forgive. So let's take a moment here. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching a recording later, I want you to take out a piece of paper. I want you to number it 1 through 10. And I'm going to set my timer. And we're going to take exactly 1 minute. We're going to take 1 minute. And what I want you to do is in that 1 minute to write all the people that you need to forgive right now in your life to allow yourself to be free and open to things. So ready? Let us begin. And again, just right. I mean, I'm sure you can add more people later, you can do whatever, but right now, the top 10 people that you feel you need to forgive right now. We've got about 10 seconds left, so let's go ahead and start finishing up that list. All right, pencils down. So now let me ask you a question. Now that you have those names on your list, is your name even on the list? See, many people, and I would say less than 50% of the people that do this exercise actually add themselves to the list as someone they need to forgive. And even less than that put themselves as number one. See, I could share my own story because I realized that a lot of what I was holding on to wasn't forgiveness for others, but forgiveness for myself. Because I looked at my life, and every time I felt somebody did wrong and I forgave that person, there was still something that pulled me back. And I couldn't understand it. And it was that part of me that looked at things and said, wait a minute, this is, if I would have, should have, could have done something different, if I would have said something different, if I would have understood different, if that person would have done something different for me to be able to do something different, if I could have saved that person or defended that person. And those are the thoughts that I need to forgive, because I needed to remind myself that I'm good. That just because in that situation I did not have the answer, or I did not react appropriately, I did not take that moment to say, wait a minute, I'm not going to react from emotion, but I needed to get the facts that allowed me to understand where this person was coming from, right or wrong. Because again, the only energy I can control is me. That person can have a belief that they will hold on to their dear life, to their deathbed, and swear they're right. And say, do something towards me that may make me, or I shouldn't even say may, where I chose to react in a certain way, where I thought it was self-preservation. But because I was coming from an emotional state, I never got all the facts, or even the empathy or understanding of why that person is coming from that place. But now I'm beating myself up because I could have acted differently. Maybe because now I know more. As Maya Angelou always said, when you know more or you know better, you do better. But the problem was I have to forgive myself because I have to understand I did not know better then. I only knew what was outside of me and what people said I needed to act like, I needed to be like, and what I thought self-preservation is, where now I understand that self-preservation needs to be controlled and changed to self-care. That I need to know that as I deal with individuals, these individuals have beliefs and have practices that have been in their lives forever, that they may think is their truth at that moment, and I needed to be empathetic to that, so that my reaction may come from a place of love, that power of love in our 12 powers that says, I understand. But I am now beating myself up for not doing that because I did not know better then, but I do know better now. And it's when I can hear those things, when I open myself to be open to listen, then I can change. And when I change, it's because I'm changing, because I have made a decision that that's where I need to be. I made a decision to be better by listening and knowing, well, this is where I need to do. And I forgive myself for missing out for so long. But again, I know better. I now can do better. And that's what's important for our own self-being, is our own self-forgiveness. And we need to work on that. In the movie itself, Mr. Miyagi asks Yukie, how did you know where to find me? She goes, I've known for a long time. And he goes, why did you wait till now? In respect for your silence. Because she wanted to respect that he decided to leave the island. He went on to have another family, which regretfully died during the war, and so forth and so on. But you could see that he still had feelings for Yukie. And you could see that toward the end of the movie, there's a big storm that comes through. And during that storm, Mr. Miyagi and Daniel and all the villagers are trying to get into the shelter. And Sato's preparing for this fight to the death with Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi sees his house full. And we understand that to be the dojo where he was warming up for this fight. Mr. Miyagi sees Chozen, his nephew, running, and he goes, no, uncle's dead, blah, blah, blah. They run into the house. They find that the board that he was practicing striking had fallen on top of him. And of course, that anger is still in his heart. So he blames Mr. Miyagi. He says, that's the only way you can beat me. Mr. Miyagi isn't concerned with the anger in his heart. Mr. Miyagi is concerned with the heart and the love in his heart when he chops the log in half, and is able to save Sato. They run to the shelter, and now you can see that layer of forgiveness has opened up. And Sato now sees Mr. Miyagi as the old friend that he loved, rather than the enemy that he loathed. Now Daniel-san has to run back out to save this little girl that's stuck up on, ringing the hurricane bell. Sato tells his nephew, so Chozen, go help him. Chozen looks at Daniel-san and says, I can't do that. So Daniel-san goes out on his own, helps the girl, starts bringing her down. Other villagers come to help. Everybody comes back. And Sato looks at his nephew and goes, now to you I am dead. Because he was hurt with the fact that Chozen didn't go help Daniel-san. And even expresses that he was wrong in the way he was thinking. He found his own self-forgiveness in this place. Speaking of, Desmond Tutu also says, until we can forgive, we remain locked in our own pain and locked out of the possibilities of experiencing healing and freedom, locked out of the possibilities of being at peace. When we look at the Buddhists and how they move in peace and talk about forgiveness, they talk about to release suffering, we must forgive. Maya Angelou herself says it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is to forgive. Forgive everyone and forgive yourself. As the movie progresses, we see that Sato comes back. He decides to turn the deed over to the villagers, so the villagers own their own town now. And one of the requests is that he allows them to have the bone dance in the castle as it always has been. And from that day forward, every time it was the ceremony or the celebration, they had a bone dance. Well, during the bone dance, we see Chozen coming, grabbing the girl and telling Daniel-san that he needs to come over. So here we have Chozen still has this anger in his heart, and he's willing to die for this, because in his mind, he is the powerful one. And Daniel-san gets up, getting ready to go. Mr. Miyagi reminds him, this is not a tournament anymore. This is a fight to the death. Daniel-san decides to still jump in, and they get into their fight on the island. Now, of course, we see in the movie that Daniel-san ends up beating Chozen and even embarrasses him like Mr. Miyagi does by throwing that final blow, which stops short and he honks him in the nose. Okay, so again, Chozen holds on to this anger and moves on. And again, Cobra Kai, if you haven't seen it, Chozen will share with you what happened after that we, of course, don't see in the movie. But the movie ends, of course, on the high note that Daniel-san has won. You know, the hero's journey is over for this movie, and everything's perfect. So, as we look at the movie and we look at our own past, how many times are we put in that situation where we end up in an argument, we end up in a fight, and after that, we hold on to that anger and carry it with us? Or we have something that happens that says we can forgive and we can move forward. So, what is the choice today for you? Is it to move on and move forward? Or is it to hold on to this anger or this resentment and keep visiting the past to use it as fuel against the person you're doing, when in reality, part of it's actually just hurting you? And this is something that transcends unity teachings. You know, the 14th Dalai Lama says that all major religion traditions carry basically the same message. That is love, compassion, and forgiveness. The important thing is that they should be part of our daily lives. We talk about sin in unity as being as missing the mark. So if someone has done something to me and I can look at it from the eyes of love and say, it's okay, that person made a mistake. That person, is coming from a place that only they know where it's coming from. Why should I react differently? And have that empathetic ear and say, okay, I understand. And even if it's something that I feel hurts me, I have a chance to forgive, and that's my power. It is my power to understand that the only person I have power over is myself. So next time you have someone who wrongs you, who makes you feel less than, and again, I hate to use the term makes you feel, because I learned a long time ago, only I can make myself feel bad. But I can guarantee you, if you're willing to work with me, I'm willing to improve myself when it's a place of truth. And I understand that perspective is personal. And those are battles that I had to rue to get to where I am today. And even today, I have to remember to listen, to know, and to make a decision of what I want moving forward. And hope that that want helps me affect the people I love around me. And I'm not talking about just my family, but the people I interact with on a daily basis, whether it's virtual, because basically I work from home, so that's where it's at, or anywhere else. And I want the same thing for you. I want you to start to forgive yourself of all those shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I want you to let go of the people who are now living their lives and release that poison so that you're open to receive the love and goodness that is promised to us. And know that we are all good people. We make mistakes. We make wrong choices. We may choose to react in ways that do not serve us, our families, our friends, and people we work with. But we do the best we can with what we know at that moment. And as Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. And that's the choice we make today. I'll see you next week as we talk about Karate Kid Part 3. So we're coming into the last of the 3 with Daniel-san, because the next Karate Kid actually brings in a whole new character, and we'll focus a lot more on Mr. Miyagi at that point. But till then, I want you to remember the relationship between Mr. Miyagi and Kreese that was left when Mr. Miyagi had mercy on him and walked away, and how that's going to carry on into Karate Kid Part 3. Practice your forgiveness. Make that list. Put yourself number 1. Start doing the work. It is not easy, but it is so worth it. And as always, wherever I can be a help, as I think it was Casting Crowns used to say, I'm not pointing a finger, but I am holding my hand out. Let's do this together, knowing that even in prayer, in oneness, we're strengthening each other. And I love you for it, and I bid you namaste as we move on to
people try to tell me who I'm supposed to be. But now I know the truth, and that truth has set me free. The media tries to tell me each and every day how to look, how to act, how to feel and what to say. But I have the secret I've known since birth. Say I'm whole and complete and I know what I'm worth. They can tell me I'm lazy, tell me I'm fat. I can give them power, but I'm no better than that. I'm a child of love here on this earth. Whole and I'm complete, and I know what I'm worth. I know what I'm worth when push comes to shove. I know what I'm worth. I'm a beacon of love. I know what I'm worth. I'm an angel of light, shining, shining, shining so bright. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I would compare myself to everyone I'd see. I didn't know the power in me. But when I need a shot of self-worth, I say, whole and not complete, and I know what I'm worth. I say no to anyone who tries to judge me. No. I say yes to my own divinity. This is the new way of being, feels like rebirth. Whole and I'm complete, and I know what I'm worth. Know what I'm worth when push comes to shove. Know what I'm worth, beacon of love. Know what I'm worth, I'm an angel of light, shining, shining, shining so bright. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy.
Worthy. Worthy.
I know what I'm worth, I know what I'm worth, I know it, know it, know it. I know what I'm worth, I know what I'm worth, I know it, know it, know it. I know what I'm worth, I know what I'm worth, I know it, know it, know it. I know what I'm worth, I know what I'm worth. I know what I'm worth when push comes to shove. I know what I'm worth, I'm a beacon of love. I know what I'm worth, I'm an angel of light, shining, shining, shining so bright. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. Don't tell me I'm not enough. I'm fabulous. I strut my stuff. I claim a power for all to see. I'm a woman I was meant to be. I'm worthy.
I'm worthy.
I'm worthy.
I'm worthy.
I know what I'm worth. I know what I'm worth. I know it. Know it. Know it.
Know what I'm worth. I know what I'm worth. I know it. Know it. Know it.
I know what I'm worth. I know what I'm worth. I know it. Know it. Know it. I know what I'm worth. I know what I'm worth. I know.
I hope you got something from our lesson today. If you haven't done so, watch The Karate Kid Part 2. Let that quote permeate through you and make that list that we talked about. And make sure that you're at the top of that list. Because one of the biggest lessons I had to learn for myself was self-forgiveness. Because people will come and go from your lives. There will be people in your lives. But the only person you can control, the only energy source you can control is yourself. So self-forgiveness has to come first. So as always, I am grateful for you listening to the lesson. I hope you got something from it, as I said. And this is a time where you get to practice the giving and receiving in gratitude. So if you've done so, you can always go to our website and use the donate button there if you wish to help us out. If you're giving to another spiritual center, that's okay, because it's all about the work we do to help change the world one person at a time. And with that being said, whether you've already done it or you have it in your hand now and you're writing a check or you're getting ready to do something online, let's go ahead and take a pause and just hold it in our hands, whether it's virtually or just part of our imagination. And you know that power of imagination is powerful. And we hold it together and we affirm divine love as me, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I circulate, and the knowledge of all that I am. And again, with that being said, thank you for being here. Next week, we jump into the Karate Kid Part 3. And I did tell you in the talk that there is a part of a relationship chaos that's going on that will carry on to Karate Kid Part 3. So make sure you're here next week. So together, before we go, just always want to remind you, I love you, nothing you can do about it. I bid namaste, because again, the big, beautiful divinity in me loves that big and beautiful and sees that big and beautiful divinity in you. And as we end this, let us join together in saying, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us, and wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And we are so grateful. And we know that God is everywhere because we are His greatest expression. So with that being said, I will see you next time.